Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, my beautiful girlies. It's Grace, and let's hop right in to this makeup get ready with me. So, for today's topic of discussion, if life were a video game, what cheat codes would I use the most? So, I think that this question is very, very interesting. It's very outside of the box. I know that everyone loves to play video games, whether if it's, Black Ops, GTA, or even solitaire. Most games usually have different little cheat codes, in order to progress at the game or to move on to the next level, stuff like that. And this question applying to life is just very, very intriguing because it's like, wow, like we could literally use different, little cheat codes to either progress our way into life or, maybe sometimes fail at life. Who knows? So now let's get on to my personal cheat codes that I would use if life were a video game. So the first cheat code that I would use if life were a video game would be infinite money. I believe that this cheat code is by far the most obvious cheat code that really anyone would use, whether if, that individual plays the video games or not. This point just makes the most sense because who wouldn't want to have infinite money, even though you have some people that can say, well, money doesn't solve all of your problems, this, that, and the third. And some instances I can definitely understand, but when you are in an instance where, you are desperate and you quite literally just need some help, just for you to be able to survive, then, you would take that money. I would take that money. Anyone with a working brain would for sure take that money, no matter, how, your morals are, no matter what your morals are, you're going to take the money nevertheless. I think just having infinite money, if life were a video game, would just definitely be life-changing. I honestly believe that we would live in a utopia. And I know that people can argue and say, well, but if we have all this money, then maybe we would have people wanting to steal money and all that fun stuff. And I could definitely see how and why they, can say that point, but I just personally disagree. I believe if everyone had their own money, then they really wouldn't worry about what the next person has, because that's usually how it goes majority of the time. Like, oh, what money does this person have? Wooty 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 whoop. And basically, how can I get some of that? It's more like that usually, in all honesty. It's not really like, oh, like, let me have some money and then let me steal someone else's money. It's not really like that per se. It's more like, okay, well, I have my money. Let me share it with my people. Let me share it with my community. And then, let me just mind my own business. Because I don't, people in today's world believe that, people are really that greedy for money. And I just think that, like, I would say that the billionaires are that greedy for money, but the most regular common person are really just like trying to get infinite amounts of money, literally for their families, for their loved ones, stuff like that. Like, I genuinely don't think it's as serious that people claim it to be, in all honesty. I just don't think it's, that treacherous. I believe that people like to exaggerate on things to just create problems. But I feel like having infinite money can honestly just, not only make everyone really, really happy. I honestly just believe that it could just get everyone to just have, world peace. Shoot, maybe that can be the closest that we can have to having world peace, in my personal opinion, with having infinite money. I mean, shoot, in video games, usually having infinite money, I mean, it could go one or two ways. Everyone wouldn't use it, correctly, honestly. Either some people would use the money for good, or some people would use the money for bad and, literally, make up their own little world. I don't think that, most people would use the money for good in video games, because in video games, it's an alternate world. So you would want to do whatever you would want with the money and not face any repercussions and stuff like that in the video game. So I would say that could be one major difference, is that maybe in video games the money could be used for bad because it's in a virtual world and not the real world, and most people in the virtual world would do very, very heinous things that obviously cannot pass in the real world. I think that stuff that people would do in the virtual world with infinite money versus the real world can be night and day, for sure. But nevertheless, I think it would just be very, very interesting just to really see what people would do with that amount of cash, in my personal opinion. But whether if there's terror or not, having that buttload amount of money every time you play the game would just be interesting, because obviously money can change people, and no matter what anyone says, money can definitely change people. It could either change people for the better, or it could change people for the worst. And 9 times out of 10 we've seen how money can change people for the worst. And I don't think that's a bad thing per se. I think that's honestly just reality, in my humble opinion. I think that when you have that amount of money, it's only an amount of time where it's going to change you, whether you like it or not. And that doesn't really change the fact if you have either some amounts of money or infinite amount of money. Regardless, I just believe that you are going to change once that income starts getting introduced, because that's just what happens realistically. But I don't know. People definitely can be wilding, even if they don't have a lot of money as well, regardless. So maybe that doesn't have to be considered true whatsoever. But it's a really interesting thing to think about, for sure, to say the least. But I just think that having infinite amount of money can not only be the definite power up, but it could just make your life easier. But yeah, y'all, that is the first cheat code that I would use if life were a video game. So the second cheat code that I would use if life were a video game would have to be the undo / rewind feature or power. I think that this feature would definitely come in handy, for sure. Oh, for sure. I know that everyone, and I mean everyone, makes mistakes, wants to go back in time and just fix on the certain mistake that they made, no matter how bad it was. And I feel like just doing one little change can, stop catastrophic events from happening, in my personal opinion. But yeah, I just think that, having that little rewind button, undo button for something that you didn't want to do, or for something that happened and you just kind of, want to go back and just make sure that that doesn't happen, is honestly just, amazing to me. At least to me, it's amazing, because it's like, wow, like, I had no idea that, basically you don't have to make any mistakes. And, people can maybe argue like, oh, well, you're not always going to be a perfect person. You're always going to make mistakes, whether in the real or virtual world. And, I'm not, denying that, regardless, we're going to make mistakes, whether if it was intentional or not. But I think that, especially in a virtual, well, not in a virtual world, excuse me, especially in the real world, having that little rewind button can, definitely save situations or save things. And I just think, you don't have to even use the undo/rewind button for like heinous things. Like, it doesn't have to be something very, very dramatic. I would literally, if it were me, I would literally just like do the rewind button most of the time, just to catch what that person was saying, honestly. And I know that's like so unserious, but like for this power, I wouldn't even use it, for dramatic stuff like that, if that makes sense. Like, I would honestly just use it to be like, oh, okay, well, I didn't really hear what you said at all. So, can we please run it back? Please? I don't know. I feel like if you give these sort of powers to an individual, most people think that we would use it for bad. And I respectfully think the opposite. I think that we could literally use these powers for good, but that's just me. I don't know. Maybe I am living in a fantasy world, or living in my own little world of delusions, probably. But honestly, that's what I believe. I really do believe that, it doesn't have to be that dramatic, in my personal opinion. Because shoot, I mean, you could also use the undo button to maybe, if you don't want to get into a fight, and, you get into a fight with someone and the police comes, hey, you could just use that undo button, just undo it. And, you could go on about your very day, or you could do a bad action, hit the undo button, and then people are literally going to pretend, or not pretend, people literally will forget that ever even happened in the first place. I mean, y'all can be very, very, very creative with this. Like, I feel like when, people are introduced these prompts, people are very limited with their thinking about like how can they use these powers, or yeah, basically how they can use these powers. And it's like, the regular way is cool and all, but y'all, let's, think bigger. Let's think, on a bigger scale and not on a smaller scale like we usually do. Like, let's just think big, So, yeah, I just think that with the undo and rewind, you know, you could literally use it for everyday life. You know, you literally can use it for everyday life. You could use it for an altercation that you didn't want to get into. You can, you know, use the rewind button to take back the certain things that you say, stuff like that. I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking about in this situation for the undo / like rewind button personally. And trust me, no matter what people say, I know for a simple fact that having a button like that would just be very, very needed. I know it would be very, very needed for me. So I'm not gonna lie and say, oh yeah, like I wouldn't have to like use that rewind, you know, or undo button at all, because I'm such a saint. You know, nobody is a saint, no matter what people try to say. Like, we do mess up, and we are going to mess up because we're human beings. But I don't know, it could just be, you know, nice to kind of, you know, take back things that you didn't want to say, like, at all, like whatsoever. And if y'all see me going off to the side, I'm literally just trying to get my powder. So, but yeah, I know I would definitely want to fix, certain mistakes for sure. I know everyone would. No matter, what people say, everyone will want to fix their mistakes for sure. Everyone would. It doesn't matter, you know, if you think that you messed up or not. Literally doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. People will want to go back and fix the things that they didn't mean to do whatsoever. And that's just definitely my belief for sure. All right, you guys, so that is the second cheat code that I would use if life were a video game. The third and last cheat code that I would use if life were a video game would have to be full health. I think that full health, honestly, everyone should use this power up for sure. Having full health and having health in general is what I believe most people take for granted. And I know everyone has their struggles in the real world. No matter how perfect life seems for other people, we all have our struggles. We all have our, wits end, whether good or bad. And I think that's like what we all have to remember at the end of the day. The same problems that, health problems, like specifically that someone else has, may not be our problem, which is great, but sometimes that may, be our problem. And, that's okay as well. I just think that having full health, no matter where you are in life, is so important, because most people, can't even say that they have that because they're in, either dire situations or, other stuff. And it's just like, y'all, like, we really need to be more grateful that we have our health and that we're able to, do these things, walk on our 2 feet, for example, walk with our 2 working legs, use our 2 working arms as well. And oh my goodness, we're gonna leave that as a beauty mark, because I've messed this up so many times. I actually think it's pretty cute. We're just gonna leave that as a beauty mark because I don't care at this point. But yeah, even, disregarding physical body parts, literally, you are, able to breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. We're able to, blink our eyes, stuff like that, like full health, especially in video games, I believe are like the power-ups that most people use the absolute most, because, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you use that power-up at all? Like, come on now. Health is the most valuable thing ever, no matter what people say, And when you have full health, you're able to do so many things. You're able to conquer many things. And, most people can't really, say that at all. I think, it's interesting that health, no matter if it's in the real world or virtual, is just, equally as important. And I think that that's a testament to how health really does matter at the very end of the day. But yeah, full health would be the third and last cheat code that I would not only use, but I would use the most. So yeah. All right, you guys, so we are finished with this makeup look. Super duper different. Love the amount of color. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? What do y'all think? I am, still practicing. So, that's all swell and dandy. I feel like I put on a little bit too much blush. I feel like the placement isn't, yeah, but it's okay. It's okay. But nevertheless, I really hope that y'all enjoyed this topic discussion. Y'all just enjoyed my points, and I hope that this discussion got y'all to think of, y'all's own points as well, of what y'all would use in y'all's everyday life as well. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that you all enjoyed. I hope that you will have an amazing Monday, an amazing week, and I will see all of y'all's beautiful faces next time. Bye, guys.